So I may pronounce this, but let's go with Guillermo is a professional deepwater free diver. His altitude in meters relative to sea level, X seconds after diving, is modeled by this equation. And we need to answer how many seconds after diving will Guillermo reach his lowest altitude? So let's start by making sense of these variables. So I'm just going to write them down. So g of x is the altitude, and that's going to be in meters. So make sure you understand what the variables represent and what their units are. And it looks like x is just time, and again, the units for this are going to be in seconds. So we're given this equation. Let me just rewrite it. G of x is, I'll write x over 20 times x minus 100. And we want to know what his lowest altitude is. And so let's draw a quick sketch of what's going on. He's a deep water free diver. So let's say that's the water level. So he's going to start at the water, go down in this parabolic arc, and then slowly work his way back up. So his lowest altitude will be here. And again, this is our vertex of the parabola. So we need to figure out what the vertex of this parabola is. And it'll be very similar to the last problem. Since with this equation, we can figure out essentially these intercepts here, or where he crosses at the water level, or where he starts and where he finishes. And then the vertex will be right between those. So if we were to graph this function here, let me draw a quick coordinate plane. And we'll say a height of 0, that can be our x-axis, that'll be our water level. And so with this equation, we can find these intercepts and then use symmetry to find the vertex. And so we use our zero product property because we want to know when y or g of x is 0. So we can figure out where it crosses this water level. So our altitude, when is our altitude 0? When does he start and when does he finish? So to figure that out, we'll use zero product property. So when does this equal 0 and when does this equal 0? Well, this one, if you plug in 100, you get 100 minus 100, which is 0, times by 100 over 20. But 0 times anything is 0. And also up here, if you plugged in 0, you get 0 over 20, which is 0, times by negative 100, but that's still 0. So these are our two intercepts. We'll say at 0, and then this one over here, we'll say that's at 100. These are seconds after diving. And so the x-coordinate of our vertex, where he's going to meet this minimum height, that's going to be the average of these. It'll be right in the middle, because there's always symmetry here. And we can add these together and divide by 2, but the middle of 0 and 100 is just 50. So more formally, you would add these 100 plus 0 and then divide by 2, but you still get back 50. So at 50 seconds, that's his minimum value. So when he dives down at 50 seconds, he will reach that minimum altitude and then start coming back up. Now, if they want to know what the lowest altitude actually is, we would have to take our 50 and plug it into our function and find g of 50. And that would give us our minimum altitude. But this question just asks how many seconds after diving will he reach that? And we found that would be at 50 seconds. So 50 would go in the box here. And we can move on to the next one.